Today's video is dedicated to Mag Lowson and Stewert Lowson. I just wanted to say thank you, Mag, for reaching out and sharing your story of how Women Who Run with Wolves truly changed your life and helped you with the grieving for your grandfather's passing. Reading your essay made me cry. It was very meaningful to me, and it reinstilled in me the desire to share this story with others. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Thank you so much for being such an amazing support. And I send all of my condolences and blessings to your family. And I know that Stewert, your grandfather, is looking over you and is proud as hell of you. Hey guys, it's me Bridget, and I'm back with another video. What's up? Hey. Okay, so it's super hot and I'm definitely going to sweat through this video. Just wanted to let you guys know that because there's nothing I can do about it. The window is open and there's probably going to be loud noises coming from outside, but I turned off the fan for you guys. I cannot close the window, bro. I can't do it. Like, I need you guys to bear with me with this one. Also, my phone's probably gonna fall out of the tripod at some point, but that's a me problem that I can handle. I just wanted to let you guys know that that's probably gonna happen. So, now that we're done with the mundane announcements, let's get into the video. Today, we are here for chapter 10 of Women Who Run with Wolves. Finally! This chapter is Clear Water, Nourishing the Creative Life. The way that Estes split up the book, she actually put in 3 separate stories this time. So the way that we're gonna split up this chapter video is there's gonna be 3 videos that'll come out today, tomorrow, and the next day, discussing the 3 different stories which mean different things in relation to our creative journey and replenishing our creative life. The first story that we'll be talking about is, and forgive my pronunciation because I'm not positive how you're supposed to pronounce this. I've heard it pronounced different ways a bunch of times, so I'm really not sure. But Llorona, yeah, that's the first story. Creativity is actually a superpower. It's a superpower that feeds and empowers generation after generation. Creativity naturally comes from within every soul, and it flows so abundantly that it only needs a seed of space in order to flow into every aspect of one's life. Creativity is like a flowing river, and in chapter 10, through the story of Llorona, we discuss the ways that that river may become polluted, how we may clean it up, and how we may flow in a healthy and natural way again. In the book, Estes says, clearly, creativity emanates from something that rises, rolls, surges, and spills into us rather than something that just stands there hoping that we might find our way to it. In that sense, we can never lose our creativity. It is always there, filling us or else colliding with whatever obstacles are placed in its path. If it finds no inlet to us, it backs up, gathers energy, and rams forward again till it breaks through. The only ways we can avoid its insistent energy are to continuously mount barriers against it, or to allow it to be poisoned by destructive negativity and negligence. If we are gasping for creative energy, if we have trouble pulling down the fertile, the imaginative, the ideational, if we have difficulty focusing on our personal vision, acting on it, or following through it, then something has gone wrong at the water spill juncture between the headwaters and the tributary. Perhaps one's creative waters are flowing through a polluting environment wherein the life forms of imaginations are killed off before they can grow to maturity. More often than not, when a woman is bereft of her creative life, all these circumstances are at the root of the issue. There are other more insidious possibilities as well. Perhaps one so admires the gifts of another and or the seeming benefits earned and received by another that one becomes expert in mimicry, sadly content to be mediocre them rather than developing one's own unique gifts to their absolute and startling depths. Perhaps one has become caught in a hyper-fascination or hero worship and has no idea how to mine their own inimitable gifts. Perhaps one is afraid, for the waters are deep and the night is dark and the way is very long. Just the right conditions needed for development of one's own original and precious gifts. Since Wild Woman is Rio abajo Rio, the river beneath the river, when she flows into us, we flow. If the aperture from her to us is blocked, we are blocked. If her currents are toxified by our own negative inner complexes or by the environment of persons around us, the delicate processes that craft our ideas are polluted also. Then we are like a dying river. This is not a slight thing to be ignored. The loss of clear creative flow constitutes a psychological and spiritual crisis. When creativity stagnates in one way or another, there is the same outcome. A starving for freshness, a fragility of fertility, no place for smaller life forms to live in the intricacies of larger life forms, no breeding of this idea to that one, no hatch, no new life. Then we feel ill and want to move on. We wander aimlessly, pretending we can get along without the lush, creative life, or else by faking one. But we cannot. We must not. To bring back creative life, the waters have to be made clean and clear again. We have to wade into the sludge, purify the contaminants, reopen the apertures, protect the flow from future harm. So now we will read the story of Llorona and talk about the polluting of the river. This story is actually a very different version than the usual story of Llorona. Estes had an addition to it from someone else, and I'm gonna share the normal version of the story and then share her addition to it as well. A rich nobleman courts a beautiful but poor woman and wins her affections. She bears him 2 sons, but he deigns not to marry her. One day, he announces that he is returning to Spain, where he will marry a rich woman chosen by his family, and that he will take his sons with him. The young woman is crazed and acts in the manner of a great shrieking madwoman throughout time. She claws at his face, she claws at her own face, she tears at him, she tears at herself. She picks up the 2 small sons and runs to the river with them, and there throws them into the torrent. The children drown, and Llorona falls into the riverbed in grief and dies. The nobleman returns to Spain and marries the rich woman. The soul of Llorona ascends to heaven. There, the master at the gate tells her that she may come to heaven, for she has suffered, but that she may not enter until she recovers the souls of her children from the river. And that is why it is said today that Llorona, the weeping woman, sweeps the riverbeds with her long hair, puts her long stick fingers into the water to drag the bottom for her children. It is also why living children must not go near the river after dark, for Llorona may mistake them for her own children and take them away forever. Now this is the rendition. Now to a modern Llorona. As the culture is affected by various influences, our thinking, our attitudes, and our issues shift. The Llorona story shifts too. While in Colorado last year collecting ghost stories, Danny Salazar, a 10-year-old child with no front teeth and surrealistically big feet on his skinny, but someday to be tall body, gave me this tale. He told me that Llorona did not kill her children for the reasons described in the old tale. No, asserted Danny. Llorona went with a rich nobleman who had factories on the river, but something went wrong. During her pregnancy, Llorona drank from the river. Her babies, twin boys, were born blind with webbed fingers, for the nobleman had poisoned the river with the waste from his factories. The nobleman told Llorona he did not want her or her babies. He married a rich woman who wanted the things the factory manufactured. Llorona threw the babies into the river because they would have such a hard life. Then she fell down dead from grief. She went to heaven, but St. Peter told her she could not come into heaven until she found the souls of her sons. Now, Llorona looks and looks through the polluted river for her children, but she can hardly see for the water is so dirty and dark. Now her ghost drags the bottom of the river with her long fingers. Now she wanders the river banks, calling for her children all the time. Llorona is another one of those examples of what not to do through fairy tale. The beautiful woman and the clean river are representations of what it's like for a healthy woman to have a healthy and flowing creative cycle and state. The river is polluted by a trusted yet destructive animus, and the woman is left searching endlessly for eternity through the muck for her priceless and precious creations. In the book, Estes says, "How can a river be anything but the sweet slot between the thighs of the earth?" In northern New Mexico, the river in storm, in wind, in flash flood is spoken of as the one who is aroused, the one who in her heat rushes to touch everything so she can make it grow. So, we see that the river here symbolizes a form of femininity, largesse, that arouses, excites, makes passionate. Women's eyes flash as they create, their words lilt, their faces flush with life, their very hair seems to shine all the more. They are excited by the idea, aroused by the possibilities, impassioned by the very thought. And at that point, like the great river, they are meant to flow outward and continuously on their own unparalleled creative path. That is the way women feel fulfilled. And this is the condition of the river that Llorona once lived by before destruction occurred. But sometimes, as in the tale, a woman's creative life is taken over by something that wants to manufacture things of and for the ego only, things which have no lasting soul worth. Sometimes there are pressures from her culture that say that her creative ideas are useless, that no one would want them, and that it's futile for her to continue. That is pollution. That is pouring lead into the river. That is what poisons the psyche. Ego satisfaction is allowable and important in its own regard. The problem is that the spewing of negative complexes attacks all freshness, newness, potential newbornness, things in the pupae stage, the lacuna, as well as the half-grown and the old and revered. When there is too much soulless or mock manufacturing, toxic waste pours into the pure river, killing off both creative impulse and energy. It is normal for creativity to flow in cycles. It's normal for it to hibernate as inspiration is gathered, and it's normal to incubate as a particularly complex vision is laid out for a plan. When this is happening, hibernation or incubation, there's still excitement bubbling under the surface and connection to the spirit and communication with the soul. Sometimes during these times more than any other time at all. It's important to note that, like most things concerning the wild soul, creativity is not something that can be diagnosed from the outside. It can only be self-diagnosed. If a woman's creative life is polluted, she is the first to know. But although she may know, she may not know what exactly she's looking at. So what are the symptoms to knowing that a creative life has been polluted? In the book, Estes says, "How might a woman's creative life become polluted?" This sludging of creative life invades all 5 phases of creation: inspiration, concentration, organization, implementation, and sustenance. Women who have lost one or more of these report that they can't think of anything new, useful, or empathetic for themselves. They are easily distracted by love affairs, too much work, too much play, by tiredness, or by fear of failure. Sometimes they cannot coalesce the machines of organization, and their projects lay scattered about in 100 places and pieces. Sometimes the problems issue from a woman's naivete about her own extroversion. She thinks that by making a few motions in the outer world, she's really done something. This is like making the arms but not the legs or the head of a thing and calling it done. She feels necessarily incomplete. Sometimes a woman trips over her own introversion and wants to simply wish things into being. She may think that just thinking the idea is good enough, and there need be no outer manifestation. Except she feels bereft and unfinished anyways. These are all manifestations of pollution in the river. What is being manufactured is not life, but something that inhibits life. Other times, she is under attack by those around her, or by the voices yammering in her head. Your work is not right enough, not good enough, not this enough, not that enough. It is too grandiose, too infinitesimal, too insignificant, takes too long, is too easy, or it's too hard. This is pouring cadmium into the river. Excuses are another form of pollution. From women writers, painters, dancers, and other artists, I have heard every excuse concocted since the earth cooled. Oh, I'll get around to it one of these days. In the meantime, she has the grinning depression. I keep busy. Yes, I squeeze in my writing here and there. Why, I wrote 2 poems last year. Yes, and finished 1 painting and part of another over the last 18 months. Yes, the house, the kids, the husband, the boyfriend, the cat, the toddler need my consummate attention. I am going to get around to it. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I can't find the time. I can't make the time. I can't start until I have the finest, most expensive instruments or experiences. I just don't feel like it right now. The mood is not right yet. I just need at least a day's worth of time to get it done. I just need to have a few days of time to get it done. I just need to have a few weeks of time to get myself to get it done. I just. All manner of negative psychic complexes will pollute the river. Self-doubt convincing you that your ideas or creations are actually worthless to society and frivolously made, due to your lack of certification or official recommendation, due to a lack of validation by some authoritative figure, procrastination in the form of justified prioritizing, convincing yourself that you will do it in the never-ending tomorrow. In the book, Estes says, one of the greatest problems of the creative complex is the accusation that whatever you're doing won't work because you're not thinking logically, because you're not being logical. What you have done so far isn't logical and therefore doomed to failure. First of all, the primary stages of creating are not logical, nor should they be. If the complex succeeds in stopping you with this, it has you. Tell it to sit down and be quiet or go away till you're done. Remember, if logic was the only thing there really was to this world, then surely all men would ride side saddle. That is a heck of a good point. When I heard her say that, I was like, you know what? That's actually very true. There's a lot of things in this world that don't stick to logic. Like, have you ever noticed how the word subtle is spelled? Like, it literally logically makes no sense. That's a total side note, but something I realized the other day, and I'm just like, why is that even a thing? Logic is stupid. Logic is not stupid, but it's definitely not something that we should rely on for everything. It's not the end-all be-all. Estes says, a woman must be careful to not allow over-responsibility or over-respectability to steal her necessary creative rests, rifts, and raptures. She simply must put her foot down and say no to half of what she believes she should be doing. Art is not meant to be created in stolen moments only. As we talked about in the last chapter, this is all about authenticity of the soul. The ego wants the things of the world. The ego is going to strive for those things, and it's going to get them one way or another. It's not stoppable, and we shouldn't stop it anyways. Our ego is a part of us, and its goal is to get the things of the world, and it's going to do that. The problem is the ego likes to run over the soul. But the key is to find the way for the soul and the ego to communicate, to figure out what the soul wants, and then use the ego as the driving force to make sure that whatever the soul wants happened. See, whether the soul is living authentically or not, the ego is still going to want the things it wants and still strive after those things. The ego is still going to want nice things, it's still going to want people's respect, it's still going to want the things of the world. Since we know the ego will have its way no matter what, the smartest course of action is to stand your ground, to decide to do the things of the soul because the things of the ego are going to happen regardless, to follow the lead of the soul, and then come to completion. We have to fight the battle of authenticity. Stop doing the should do things. Start doing the need to do things. The things that you were born to do, that you have felt since you were born and know that in your heart, that's all you've ever felt like you were supposed to do, so maybe it actually just is what you're supposed to be doing. Start doing the must do things and then trust the ego to handle the rest. It's gonna do it anyways. So in the story, the nobleman represents what's called the animus in Jungian psychology. So in the story, the nobleman represents the animus, which is what it's called in psychology. The animus, the nobleman, causes a fight, a struggle, but it's not against the actual woman herself, it's against her permission to follow her creative flow. A healthy animus is meant to involve himself with the work of the river, and this is as it should be. Well integrated, he is the helper, watching to see if anything needs to be done, but in the Llorona story, the animus is one-sided. He takes over, prevents vital new life, and insists on dominating the life of a woman. He takes over, prevents vital new life, and insists on dominating the life of the psyche. When a malignant animus gains such power, a woman may denigrate her own work or else, at the other extreme, attempt to fake real work. When any of these take place, a woman has fewer and fewer creative options. The animus gains power to push the woman around, denigrates her work, thereby inauthenticating it by one way or another. He does this by ruining the river. So how does a healthy animus operate? In the book, Estes says, animus can best be understood as a force that assists women in acting in their own behalf in the outer world. Animus helps a woman put forth her specific and feminine inner thoughts and feelings in concrete ways, emotionally, sexually, financially, creatively, and otherwise, rather than a construct that patterns itself after a culturally imposed standard of masculine development in any given culture. The male figures in women's dreams seem to indicate that animus is not the soul of a woman, but of, from, or for the soul of a woman. In its balanced and non-perverted form, animus is an essential bridging man. This figure often has wondrous capabilities that cause him to rise to the work as bridger and bringer. He is like a merchant of the soul. He imports and exports knowledge and products. He chooses the best of what is offered, arranges the best price, supervises the integrity of the exchanges, follows up, and follows through. Another way to understand this is to think of Wild Woman, the soul self, as the artist, and the animus as the arm of the artist. Wild Woman is the driver. The animus hustles up the vehicle. She makes the song, he scores it. She imagines, he offers advice. Without him, the play is created in one's imagination, but never written down and never performed. Without him, the stage may be filled to bursting, but the curtains never part and the marquee remains dark. So, as we talked about in last chapter, the spirit kind of traverses between the soul and the ego. The animus is kind of like the spirit's partner in that way. It traverses between the soul and the ego, but the difference between the spirit and the animus is the animus kind of is the to-do list. It's kind of the logic. It's the part of the ego that understands how the real world works and can relay that knowledge to the soul so that they can come together and create the best possible solutions for the soul's ideas and what it wants to do. The animus is the creator of the plan. It's the one that sticks to the plan, and it's the one that can grade things and decide their value to the world. In the book, Estes says, the key aspect to a positive animus development is actual manifestation of cohesive inner thoughts, impulses, and ideas. Though we speak here of positive animus development, there is also a caveat. An integral animus is developed in full consciousness and with much work of self-examination. If one does not carefully peer into one's motives and appetites each step of the way, a poorly developed animus results. This deleterious animus can and will senselessly carry out unexamined ego impulses, pumping out various blind ambitions and fulfilling myriad unexamined appetites. Further, animus is an element of women's psyches that must be exercised, given regular workouts in order for her and it to be able to act in whole ways. If the useful animus is neglected in a woman's psychic life, it atrophies, exactly like a muscle that has lain inert too long. It is very good for a woman to have in her psyche a devoted animus figure, strong, able to see far, hearing both in the outer world and in the underworld, able to predict what is likely to occur next, deciding laws and justice by the sum of what he senses and sees in the worlds. But the one in this story is an infidel. The role of the animus as portrayed by the well-realized nobleman, king or mentor, in a woman's psyche is supposed to be able to help her realize her possibilities and goals, make manifest the ideas and ideals she holds dear, weigh the justice and integrity of things, and take care of the armaments, strategize when she is threatened, help her unite all of her psychic territories. When the animus has become a menace, the way that we see in this tale, a woman loses confidence in her decisions. A menacing animus is what will make a gifted woman question the value and the realness of her work. A key to know is that all work is real work. All work that's being done in the world is real work. If you paint, you're a painter. If you write, you're a writer. If you put work into the world, it's real and valid and deserves value. And it has value. Estes says, there is an odd phenomenon in the psyche. When a woman is afflicted with a negative animus, any effort at a creative act touches it off so that it attacks her. She picks up a pen. The factory on the river spews its poison. She thinks about applying to school or takes a class, but stops in the middle, choking on the lack of inward nourishment and support. A woman revs up but continuously falls back. There are more unfinished needlework projects, more never realized flower beds, more hikes never taken, more notes never written just to say I care, more foreign languages never learned, more music lessons abandoned, more weft hanging on the loom, waiting and waiting. These are the deformed life forms. These are Llorona's poisoned children. They are all tossed back into the polluted waters that so afflicted them to begin with. In the best archetypal circumstances, what is supposed to happen is that they burble around and like a phoenix rise from the ashes in a new form. But here, something is wrong with the animus, and therefore weights are awry in one's ability to differentiate one's impulses from the other, let alone to manifest and implement one's ideas in the world. And the river is so filled with the excrement of complexes, nothing can rise from it for new life. So how do we begin to filter the river and get rid of the pollution? So Estes gives us some step-by-step guidance. She starts off with number 1, receiving nurture. Take a fucking compliment. Stop letting your mind convince you that the whole rest of the world is stupid in comparison to you just because the world thinks that you're wonderful. It doesn't even make sense, really. How can you think that everyone else is so stupid that they can't realize how wonderful you are, but yet you're not stupid and you realize that you're wonderful enough to realize that everyone else is stupid? That doesn't even make sense. Just take a fucking compliment. Realize that you are special too. Realize that you are special and that people can recognize what's special about you and they value it and appreciate it. Step 2, respond. Open your heart and allow yourself to feel freely. Express those feelings however comes naturally to you. That is the first step of creativity. Estes says in the book, to create, one must be able to respond. Creativity is the ability to respond to all that goes on around us, to choose from the hundreds of possibilities of thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions that arise within us, and to put these together in a unique response, expression, or message that carries out moment, passion, and meaning. In this sense, loss of our creative milieu means finding ourselves limited to only one choice, divested of suppressing or censoring feelings and thoughts, not acting, not saying, doing, or being. Step 3, be wild. Estes says, that is how to clear the river. In its original form, the river does not flow in polluted. We manage that. The river does not dry up. We block it. If we want to allow its freedom, we have to allow our ideational lives to be let loose, to stream, letting anything come, initially censoring nothing. That is creative life. It is made up of divine paradox. It is an entirely interior process. To create, one must be willing to be stone stupid, to sit upon a throne on top of a jackass and spill rubies from one's mouth. Then the river will flow. Then we can stand in the stream of it raining down. We can put out our shirts and skirts to catch as much of it as we can. Get the stick out your ass and start making shit just to make shit. Have fun, be free, let it flow. Stop worrying about algorithms and grades and what people are going to like and what's meaningful and what has value and what's gonna help someone. Just make stuff, just do things, just be wild, just be free. Just go out there, have some fun, gain some inspiration, and do something. Number 4 is to begin. I think it was actually Taylor Swift, but maybe someone else throughout history before her, who said that bravery is not actually not being afraid. Bravery is when you're scared as shit and do it anyways. No matter how many times you fail, there will always be a second chance. There will always be a tomorrow. Tomorrow is never ending until it isn't. And when it isn't, we will never know. Keep retrying, keep getting up and trying again until it's gone. Number 5 is protect your time. Estes says in the book, this is how to banish pollutants. I know a fierce painter here in the Rockies who hangs this sign on a chain that closes off the road to her house when she is painting or thinking. It says, I am working today and am not receiving visitors. I know you think this doesn't mean you because you're my banker, agent, or best friend, but it does. Another sculptor I know hangs this sign on her gate. It says, do not disturb unless I've won the lottery or Jesus has been sighted on the old highway. As you can see, the well-developed animus has excellent boundaries. This is something that I'm growing on. I personally might make one of those messages like my voicemail message on my phone. But this is something that I've been working on. I noticed personally, I have a really hard time with boundaries. I usually don't put up boundaries with people. I usually just like do things as I feel that I should with people, and then oftentimes when someone wants something of me, when someone wants me to go somewhere, when someone wants me to be doing something, a lot of the time I'm already planning to do other things, or I want to work on something creatively, or whatever the case may be. And throughout my life, I've gone one of two ways: either do it and then spend the entire time feeling bad about the fact that I'm doing it because I'm not doing something that's important to me, or don't do it and then stay home realizing that someone I love and care about was hurt by my decision. Still don't do the thing that was important to me in the first place because I feel so bad. And neither of those things are really truly creating boundaries. So personally, I'm working on actually creating boundaries. Something that I've been talking a lot about is making less excuses. There's always 1.5 million reasons and excuses that I can say as to why I can't do this or this or that. But at the end of the day, the only excuse, the only reason I need to give is that I can't. I have other plans. I have something else to do. And if your life is balanced, if you choose to put up actual boundaries where it matters and don't just like constantly isolate yourself, don't constantly kick people out of your life, people will understand. People realize that you're living your own life and that you're not living your life solely for them. People who care about you want you to take care of yourself and want you to pursue the things that your soul needs to pursue and cares about. So putting up those boundaries, it's a difficult step to make, but personally I'm finding it's changing my life as I stick to them. I'm still figuring them out because I still have a hard time with them sometimes, but as you put them up and as you continue to allow your family and the friends and people around you who care about you to adjust to them, it's truly life-changing, and it truly helps you to feel more valued in your work. I feel like my work is more real now because I know that people in my life know that I'm doing it and actually are okay with me doing it over spending time with them or doing things like that, you know? The next step is stay with it. Banish any future pollutants with discipline. Pollutants will come. You will have negative thoughts. You will doubt yourself. It's gonna happen. But discipline is what keeps pollutants from being one can thrown in the river that can easily be stabbed and taken out to being sludge from a factory that pollutes the entire river. Stay consistent, stick to your work, make a plan and follow through it, even when everything within you doesn't want to. Because there will be times too when there's nothing on the outside world that's making you not want to do what you want to do but yourself. And you realize how important this task is to you, but for whatever reason, Netflix just seems so much more important. This one quote by Estes in the book, I'll probably remember the rest of my life. She said, "I love my creative life more than I love cooperating with my own oppression." I'm gonna tell myself that the next time I want to go on a YouTube binge when I have videos to film. And you should tell yourself that the next time you want to do the same. Number 7. Protect your creative life. This kind of goes with number 6, but just furthering it. Protect your life. Let no one or nothing create negative complexes that could pollute your river and stop you again. When you hear people saying things like, cut them off. If somebody is saying negative things about your work and what you're doing with your life and your creative journey, snip, snip, ho. You don't need them. Even if it's family, because sometimes it is. And this isn't to say that that person's necessarily wrong or bad or a terrible human being, but like you just don't need that energy in your equation. Protect yourself. Number 8. Craft your real work. So after we've been wild and we're doing things just for the sake of doing them, eventually we come to the point where we find true inspiration, where we find something important. And oftentimes it can feel like a fork in the river. It could be, I can just keep being wild because this is fun and I'm just doing fun things. Or I can follow this path of something that may take time and may be hard and I may end up failing on this, but it's meaningful and I really feel like it's something I should do. Once you reach that point, follow it. Hold on to all the lessons that you learned from before in cleaning your river, discipline, protecting it, etc. And craft your new creative life. Finally, number 9, lay out the nourishment for the creative life. We know that everything succumbs to the life, death, life nature of life. And therefore, there will be a death. There will be pollutants to come to your river. But now that you've been through the process, now that you've gone wild, now that you've learned discipline, now that you've learned to protect yourself, now that you're focused on your true craft, on something that's important, lay out future nourishment for when you know that things will happen in the past. Plan ahead. Make sure that you do take full time to rest when you need it. Make sure that when the dark night of the soul comes, which we talk about tomorrow, that you're ready for it. Like, learn things for the future and lay out the nourishment. Give yourself the breadcrumbs for as time goes on. Okay, so that's the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Llorona was really good for me. Honestly, this chapter in general was really good for me. I feel like I told you guys this when I started doing these videos, that this book has really been changing my life, but like as we're getting deeper in the book together and not just on my own, I can't even describe to you how much is changing within me. I feel invigorated. I feel excited about life. Okay, I'm still struggling, and I want to be honest with that with you guys. I was thinking I'll probably make like an update video one of these days where I kind of just sit down and get vulnerable with you guys about all the stuff going on in my own life, and hopefully figure out some type of like actual plan or something to make things a little bit less stressful. I feel like I'm finally finding a purpose in my life, and it's making all the other mundane things that I have to do in order to just keep up with the world around me and my ego and all that type of stuff feel really dumb and feel really pointless, and it's making it really hard to like still do them. And I feel like I'm creating a community here and I want to support you guys, but I feel like the community we've created here is so supportive and so sharing and so open, and it's only growing, and I'm really excited about it. So let's continue on together. Let's do this. I'm excited. I should end the video here because this first one is super long. Promise you the next two are not that long. See you guys tomorrow. Bye. Woo! Wait, before you go, I'm sure I already asked you guys this, and hopefully you already have, but just in case you haven't, make sure you like and comment on this video and go ahead and share it with your friends too. If you guys enjoyed that video and would like to continue to hang out with me, go ahead and follow my Instagram, yo! I post on there way more often than I do YouTube, and I also respond to my DMs so we could be real friends in like real life, you know? Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and if you're looking for more stuff to watch, this was my last video and I think you'd really like this video right here, so check it out. I'll be waiting. Go ahead and click whenever you're ready. I'll be waiting. Okay, hopefully you've clicked now. Bye.